James Cleverly.
Madam Deputy Speaker, with the leave of the House, I would like to conclude this debate on behalf of my honourable and gallant friend, the Minister for the Armed Forces, who was unfortunately detained in his department at the opening of this debate. He has apologised to the Chair and he has asked me to put on record his apologies to the House. Earlier, I outlined the government's main objective in this conflict: for President Putin to fail in Ukraine. And I set out the means we are employing to ensure that this is the case. With the addition of 360 people sanctioned today, the United Kingdom has now taken action against over 1,000 Russian individuals and entities. The new powers afforded to the government under the Economic Crime Act have been put to use and will continue to be used over the coming weeks and months. Bank assets worth over £350 billion have been frozen. We have cut off key sectors of the Russian economy, including those essential to the Russian war machine, and we have rallied allies to remove Russia from the SWIFT banking system. And these sanctions are already biting. The Russian stock market has not opened since the start of the conflict, the most prolonged closure of the Russian stock market, I understand, since the Bolshevik Revolution. The Kremlin is desperately trying to hold back capital flight, even from their sovereign wealth fund. Putin's economy is now desperately exposed, and the elites around him feel the pain. And they must tell him to stop the war, because the international consensus that now threatens their wealth will not be broken. This conflict stops when Putin decides it stops, and he should realise that it should stop now. Madam Deputy Speaker, the international community has also moved to ostracise Russia from international sporting and cultural events. Russia and Belarusian athletes have been blocked from the Paralympics. They're out of the World Cup. Major Western corporations are ceasing business in Russia, and the Bolshoi Ballet will not be coming on their planned tour of the UK. Russian sports fans are left without international games to watch. The artists, athletes and performers blocked from performing overseas, and the hundreds queuing in recent days for their last McDonald's must be a visible signal to all Russians that Putin is damaging their country. In his desperate attempt to control the news, Putin has inflicted on his own people the blocking of Western social media platforms, and the highly connected and often influential Russian influencers must be devastated. And as trivial as their tears may seem in the face of the suffering in Sumy or Kharkiv, their tears reflect the anger of a generation of young Russian people who Putin does not understand and who does not represent. And they don't want the digital and cultural isolation from the West that he is now inflicting upon them. And they should follow the brave example of Marina Oskianova in challenging the repression of free speech and access to the world of online information. Putin is inflicting on this generation of millennial Russians a complete and total change of their way of life, and I have no doubt they will want to push back. Of course I will give way briefly.
And I'm full of praise for the government for now being able to sanction 1,000 individuals. But will he confirm two things? First of all, that a large number of those can only be sanctioned under our rules for 56 days because they depend on the act that we passed yesterday. Secondly, can he confirm that we will proceed with many more sanctions, because the tiny number of people around Putin may not be moved by all of this. It's the people who have £750,000 stuck away here as their possible bolt hole who are terrified of what may happen. We need to get to them as well.
Deputy Speaker, I can assure the honourable gentleman and the House that we will continue applying sanctions to the Russians to continue the pressure on Vladimir Putin and to choke off the supply of money to his war machine. The government has announced nearly £400 million in support to the Ukrainian, both humanitarian and economic. We are providing medical supplies, generators and other essentials. We're bringing Ukrainian children to the UK to continue their cancer treatment, and we've made the offer that the Royal Centre for Defence Medicine and other UK military medical facilities will be made available to injured Ukrainian service personnel. We also will welcome Ukrainians here, Ukrainians fleeing from the conflict. We have put no cap on that number, and we have already seen that over 100,000 British families have offered to make their homes available to the refugees.
Would he consider, and I appreciate there might be difficulties with this, that actually our offer should be open to injured Russian military personnel as well? If they are captured on the battlefield and they are injured, we should show them the same humanity that we're obliged to under the Geneva Conventions.
We have to.
I will listen to what my right honourable friend has said. Obviously, this is, as with the case with all military conflict, is based on medical need, but I will take the point he has put across. A number of participants in this debate on that side of the House, I feel, have sought to create a grievance where I don't think there should be any. And I think it is important that people recognise the £350 that some members and honourable members have spoken about is to the householder, but there will be nearly, or indeed over £10,000 of support made available to the local councils for those people being homed in the UK. The Right Honourable Member, my friend, the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead, made an incredibly important point, and I'm glad it was recognised by the shadow front bench, about the risk of people traffickers taking advantage of those who have been displaced by this conflict. We know that bad people take advantage of good people in times of difficulty, and that is why it is so very important that we remain observant, we remain vigilant, and we prevent these evil people from prospering through the hurt of others. I want to pay my Shadow Defence Minister has been assiduous in reflecting the comments from the House, and rather than repeat the names of the Honourable and Right Honourable members that he has mentioned, I would like to also put on record my thanks to their contribution. And I would also very much like to make the point that on the opposition benches, we have heard a commitment to the territorial integrity of Ukraine, a commitment to collective defence. It is great, once again, to see Her Majesty's opposition being the true heirs of Attlee. It is incredibly important that at times like this, whilst we do have differences, and those differences have been aired today, the message that is sent out to our friends and adversaries alike is that we stand united as a House and that we stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people. We've been asked specifically about the military support that is going to Ukraine. And there's the point I should make about refugees. We recognise Ukrainians do not want to be refugees. They want to get home. They want to get back to the country that they love and the country that they are defending with such passion, and we're keen to help them do so, which is why we will continue to provide the military aid that they need. From the International Donor Conference chaired by my right honourable friend, the Defence Secretary, 2 weeks ago, there was a commitment of 4,241 NLAWs, which have been delivered. Other countries will also make donations. Thousands of sets of body armour and helmets and a huge volume of small arms ammunition and rations and communications equipment have been flown forward and moved onwards into Ukraine. The Shadow Defence Minister asked specifically about the provision of HVM Starstreak high-velocity anti-aircraft missile. These are being delivered. The timing, the location and nature of that he will understand we wish to keep discreet, but I can assure him we will help the Ukrainians defend themselves from attacks from the air. The donor community grows because of the intervention of the Prime Minister, the Defence Secretary and others.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I press the Minister on MiG-29s to try and get MiG-29s to Ukraine. They could be picked up by Ukrainian pilots and flown in.
He's running ahead. You can clearly see the next page of my speech. As I say, through the work of the Prime Minister, the Defence Secretary, and others, the donor community grows all the time, and a further donor conference will be convened by the Defence Secretary in the near future, and we will push for more, just as the Prime Minister did with the member states of the Joint Expeditionary Force, the meeting of which he hosted this morning at Lancaster House. Those countries who haven't had their appropriate weapons in the stockpiles have sent cash. Others have provided transport planes to work alongside the RAF in making these deliveries. All of this is coordinated through the fantastic work of the International Donor Coordination Centre, led by the UK's 104 Theatre Establishment Brigade, who are now established in Stuttgart alongside the US European Command. Many colleagues on both sides of the House have asked for more support to the Ukrainian armed forces and more complex weapon systems to be made available. And we speak regularly with our friends in Ukraine. Indeed, we speak with them every day, and we're working day and night to deliver as much of the requests that they make of us. My honourable and gallant friend asked particularly about the delivery, as have others, of MiG-29s from Poland and other Western countries who operate these jets. The delivery of those jets to Ukraine is clearly a matter for those donor countries. They will each need to make their calculations about the risk of donating weapons, as we have done when we donate ours. Whatever they decide to do, of course, we will support them. Madam Deputy Speaker, many colleagues have also focused on the work of our armed forces, and yes, I am biased, but we know, because the Ukrainians tell us, that both the equipment and the training support that the UK armed forces have provided them over a number of years through Operation Orbital has been incredibly useful to them, and I think we should all be proud of the work that our armed forces personnel have done in support of the Ukrainians. And I know that the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, the Defence Secretary and others are all determined that the UK's foreign and security policy reflects the threat that we face in the world today, and that we have the opportunity to project UK influence. And despite the habitual narrative from the bench opposite, and I understand oppositions have to oppose, I can assure the House that the UK is still a very significant influencer on the world stage and a force for good in the world. We are determined to support the Ukrainians. We have seen, and a number of members and right honourable members have spoken passionately, and they were right to do so, about the bravery and the resilience of the Ukrainians, both the military and also the civilians who have taken up arms in defence of their homeland. And we are also witnessing incredible bravery from protesters in Russia too. This brave resistance to Putin and the elites around him inspires us all. The UK and the world stands with Ukraine. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, for all the hubris in his planning, for all the incompetence in the execution, for all the lies that have been told about the losses that they've suffered, the Russian army does remain a formidable foe. We must recognise, therefore, we must prepare ourselves, I'm afraid, for the potential of worse than what we have already seen. But the Ukrainian people must not give up hope. They are fighting heroically. They are holding back an invading armoured army. And Putin may feel that he has overwhelming power at his disposal, and he may feel that a decisive victory is still in his gift. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Ukrainians are proving him wrong. He has already failed in his strategic objective. The international community has pulled together. The Ukrainians have pulled together. They have fought like tigers. The international community and the Ukrainian people have seen him for what he is. and increasingly the Russian people are seeing it too. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.